Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for staying with us. Our next session is locked and loaded, and it's definitely going to be a strong one. Over to Devesh.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. This session is all about RTO's fulfillment and how to avoid RTO related hassles. So, with me here today is Gaurav, Director and General Manager at Razorpay. Gaurav, would request you to introduce yourself and the upcoming panelists.
Sure. Hey everyone, I'm Gaurav. I think Devesh already introduced me, but generally been working in the e-commerce space for a while now and working around the COD and the RTO problem for close to 5 years. But who's more experienced doing this? My other co-panelists. So let me quickly go around the table and introduce both of them. We have Prashant, who's a co-founder at ClickPost. Maybe you can spotlight him now. And we have Ali, who's from Delivery. He heads, a bunch of initiatives at Delivery with respect to the RTO problem as well, besides other things. If you could spotlight Ali, please. Hey, folks. So with this, I would like to, get started on our conversation. I know it's something that we, at least the three of us, I know for a fact that breathe in and out daily as a problem, but and I'm sure a lot of brands who are listening to us experience it on a regular basis. But let's get down to basics and define it once and for all, so that we don't have any confusion with respect to what RTO really means, right? I'll request Prashant if you could take a stab at that, and Ali, if you want to add anything on top of it.
Sure. So RTO, as we understand, is the part of the shipment journey when the brands ship the shipment to their customers, but due to any reason, the customer doesn't accept the shipment, and then the shipment gets returned back to the warehouse.
Got it. Very well put. Ali, you would like to add anything to that? Any nuance, any scenarios?
Nothing much to add. I mean, that's what an RTO is, and it typically is a very COD specific phenomenon, and across the industry, depending on the brand, depending on the target audience, depending on the value of the shipment, and depending on the time in which it reaches, the RTO could vary anywhere from 10%, and we've seen it go up to 60-70% as well. So that's the nature of the beast. Unfortunately, it's not a great thing for brands because they do not make any revenue and end up spending two-way shipping, which is why it's a big problem.
Got it. The range sounds like a very, very large one. So Devesh here has a poll just trying to understand and gauge what this audience group sees that range as, right? Devesh, you want to launch that poll now? Okay, you would be seeing a poll right now. Please take a quick 10-20 seconds to answer that. Good. Okay, 5 more seconds then.
What do you think will be the number that most brands will opt in for?
Oh yeah, we could do a betting game over here. But my guess is like 40%. I've seen that.
Maybe 25 to 30%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think the poll's done.
To be the number, yeah.
Devesh, you want to voice over the results, or
Yep. Looks like about 31% audience has a RTO rate between 20 to 40%, and roughly 20% audience feels that they have an RTO rate between 40 to 60%. About 11-12% say that they have an RTO rate more than 60% as well. So does seem like a very large problem in itself. And over to you folks. Would love more insights from you on how brands can help navigate this challenge.
Thank you so much, Devesh. So yeah, I mean, RTO is certainly a very big problem, and as Ali mentioned, it's a very, very wide range. Let's dig a little deeper into the kind of reasons that cause RTO, right? At the surface level, we do know that there are some customers who are just generally not very conducive to online shopping behavior, and they might end up with accidental orders and so on. And then just generally some people who don't respect the time that, the time and the energy that brands spend in getting them as a customer and, really driving business for them. But, what do you folks think, right? Ali, I would like to begin with you on this one. How would you classify the reasons for RTOs happening?
Ali, you're on mute.
Apologies, am I audible now? Yeah. So I think there's a baseline, which is by nature of the COD payment and of people who basically change their mind. Maybe whether it is something they need or not need, they just simply change their mind, right? For various reasons, that they don't have the money on hand, or they decided I'll buy it offline, or if they have the need or that, right? So this is a baseline of, let's say, someone who's facing a 50%, and that baseline can vary depending on, again, on brand to brand. It can be 5% or 10%. It starts with that, and then there is various other factors, right? That you've probably targeted the wrong audience. Very often it happens that people under pressure to get more revenue, they increase their Facebook targeting, they try to widen the net from their core audience. You get customers who didn't want to buy, so they made the purchase decision, right? So that is the other part of the baseline. So these two are baseline that you can't really, it's always an experimental basis. Like, you will always, as a brand, want to expand your core audience, so you will make experiments, and some of those experiments will fail. And the other are people who would be your core audience, but they change their mind, right? And beyond that, it essentially then comes down to shipping, whether they get it on time. The more delayed you are in terms of receiving your parcel, the more likely it is for you to have say, no, this is too late, I've changed my mind. Then there is also there's an NDR problem. When someone isn't there, they refuse. Are you reattempted the next day, and then helping them change their mind? Those are some of the other factors. And again, the numbers and percentages for all of these vary over time. Prashant is into this space. He can shed more light from a numbers perspective over
there. Right. So how I personally look at this, right? There is definitely one segment about wrong marketing that Ali spoke about, but I'll keep that aside, because that is more of marketing controlled targeting that we can look at. Apart from that, what all happens in the entire customer journey, and where all brands generally go wrong, which needs to be optimized as far as we talk about customer experience. So the first touch point that comes in is the estimated delivery date that you are showing to the customer. Right? Are you showing an accurate estimated delivery date? And once the order is shipped, when you are fulfilling the order, are you actually adhering to it? Which leads to the second point that Ali was also talking about, regarding you promised 2 days as the delivery time, and then it took like 5 days just to get the shipment delivered, and then customer expectation was completely something else, and customer has no idea what is happening, which takes me to the next point, which is about communications. How are you managing your entire communications as soon as the customer is placing the order, you're shipping it? Is your order to ship time under control? If it is shipped, are you continuously monitoring what is happening with that shipment, and keeping the customer also informed about it? If there are breaches in terms of SLAs, let the customer know that, okay, brand is taking care of it, which builds a trust and kind of loyalty in customers' mind that, okay, I can trust this brand, and I'm okay waiting for a day or two more that I'll get my shipment back. And not just that, probably one of the biggest area that we see is the NDR piece, right? The shipments are attempted, but due to multiple reasons, the customer is not there, or the attempt didn't happen, or the customer was not reachable. They attempted during a day hour. So how can you ensure that customer is informed about the delivery attempts that will be made on the shipment, and then ensure that the strike rate when the out for delivery attempt is happening is higher and higher. So that again becomes an interesting piece. And one probably indirect correlation that we see when we talk about RTO is, are the brands offering a good returns and exchanges policy? So you place an order and then you realize that, okay, hey, the returns and exchanges not there. So the only way you can not accept the order is like you can return the order is not accepting it, which becomes a choking point.
Got it.
For people. So,
Got it. I think these are some very comprehensively covered aspects of what causes RTO. I can just think of a couple of more, right? I think generally when a customer is interacting with a brand for the first time, that's a very low trust engagement, right? From a customer's point of view. And what we have observed is, irrespective of how large the brand is and how much branding investment they have made, this equation doesn't change, and that does lead to some sort of a hesitation or dual purchase behavior. So I could be placing an order here as well as from a marketplace because I don't know whether they'll deliver, whether this is a legit website, and so on, right? So that's one aspect certainly that we have seen, and generally I think the other element of trust is, of course, about the product itself, right? I'm buying something, I just don't know, I'm not sure about whether I want to buy this, right? And I often hear end customers speaking the language of, I don't know this product, I know it will reach me, but I'm not sure if it is going to be equally good. And it's a very funny thing that they mention that they want to test and pick the product, whereas it's never allowed. You just if it were allowed, it will just breach the whole legitimacy of the delivery process, unless you're doing open box delivery, which very select brands do for very select categories as well. So that's an interesting aspect of consumer behavior. They feel that they have more control when they will access the product, and eventually if they're not present, if they are if they don't have cash handy, if they don't have the required payment methods handy, they'll just sort of end up into an NDR, and sometimes lead to a very high RTO rate because of these reasons. Like, I'm not available. I ordered at home, but I'm at office or I'm outside. Right? So some of those are a few other reasons. Having said this, as Ali mentioned at the beginning, it's predominantly been a COD problem and not a prepaid problem. And although we do see RTOs happening on prepaid as well, because of the reasons that we spoke about, some of them are very intrinsic to the customer's purchase intent or purchase need itself, right? What kind of numbers have you seen, as a split between COD and prepaid? I know we spoke about at an aggregate level, but what would be the COD and RTO, prepaid RTO rates? Prashant, if you could begin on this one.
Yeah, so I'll first talk about the COD and prepaid split. So when COVID hit, we all expected that, and it actually happened, that the COD started going on a decline for a brief window of time. And now we are seeing that COD is again back to where it used to be. So you see that in COD and prepaid, the COD is still varies on the north of, say, majority of your volume, I'd say. And in COD, you see more than 50%, like for brands who are not doing enough to ensure that you control your RTO. The number stands at beyond 50%. And we have seen brands who take this number of RTO percentage on COD shipments to control it and bring it to like 40 or 50%, 40, 50% of
Got it. Ali, do you see similar numbers between COD and prepaid RTO rates?
No. So specifically to the question of split between COD and prepaid, 98% of RTOs happen on COD shipments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's a very small number and not worth the focus for brands.
Mm-hmm.
Split between COD and prepaid overall, not RTO. It varies a lot on brand by brand. Okay, so a very urban, high ASP, focused, established brand will have CODs around 10-20% also, and a relatively newer brand, lower ASPs can have CODs go up to 70-80% of the way. So it's a factor of who you're targeting, what is the average selling price, and how well-known you are. The more well-known and well-established brand you are, your CODs shipments as a percentage of your overall shipments goes low. And that you can see by things like, an Amazon or Flipkart will have a much lower. So brands who sell on an Amazon or Flipkart are much lower COD split, and even within that COD, the return. So the trust obviously is the number one factor, which leads to RTO, right? So it's they trust those larger marketplaces. So brands have to work hard on building that trust through various experience points, be it checkout, be it at the point of delivery, be it communication, a lot of things that Prashant mentioned, that really builds those trusts, and then they can hope to vary that percentage. So
that's exactly
your goal of reducing RTO is top of the funnel. You need to reduce the amount of COD ship orders, and then once you have COD orders, you need to reduce the number of RTO shipments.
Yeah, that's exactly where I would like to go next, right? How do brands ensure that the RTO rates reduce to an acceptable level for operating business, right? And you folks mentioned a lot of touch points, right? So the way we'll probably do this is I'll speak about a touch point, and you can probably one by one voice over the possible solutions on that touch point, right? Be it touch point or just a bucket, right? So I'll begin with my favorite. I know trust, and Ali just mentioned that as well. Trust is the largest problem. How do you instill more trust in that entire engagement for a new customer, especially on a direct to consumer website as opposed to marketplace? How would you instill that trust, or what other remedies that you have at disposal? Prashant, if you want to take this one first.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So trust, as we see, is a collection of a lot of touch points, right? You cannot just build trust by doing one thing at all times. Say, for example, having a good returns and exchange policy, right? Builds a lot of trust amongst customers that, okay, I know if I didn't like the product, I can return it. And there on day one, probably when brands are starting out and building their narrative towards the quality of the product that they are serving to the customers, it's important to have slightly lenient returns policy, because that cycle has to complete. Probably you need to, the first time customers to engage with you, and then get the item, get that comfort that, okay, I like this quality, and then probably you can go ahead.
So what I'm hearing is, liberal policy around returns and cancellations. That's a good one. Ali, you mentioned about communicating, or rather, Prashant mentioned about communicating with your customer, right? What are some of the solutions, Ali, that you would propose with respect to communicating? Like, what are the scenarios where you, as a delivery operator, see people have the maximum anxiety with respect to their delivery timelines?
See, various layers of trust, right? Firstly, if a consumer is coming to your website, he's like, I haven't heard of this fellow before. It's a new brand, right? So if I'm buying from an apparel brand, I know the large brands that I've seen in malls, but who's this guy? So I don't know, right? So the first thing you need to establish is that, look, I'm legitimate, and if you order from me, you'll get it on time. And that kind of message should be consistent at the point and when they're browsing, when they're buying it, post buying it, while they're waiting for that shipment to be delivered. All of these points you need to start stressing that I'm someone who is capable, who has accepted your order and is capable of getting it delivered. So, you start off obviously in the buying time itself. Are you building credibility? You'll have to invest. You have to look very professional. Like, if you look like a website, then you're dropping off the trust brand. Like, it's a very, very new, not responsive, not very clearly described products. You're losing trust there. That there is a trust factor there, right? At the point of when the person has made the payment gateway, you are giving reliable payment gateways. And then post buying it, you give them a very clear message, whether by WhatsApp or email, that, hey, you've bought this. our team is working on it. We'll get it delivered to you in 3 days basis that we promised you, right? And then during the journey, it's on its way, or it's out to be delivered to you today. These are all trust building exercises. So wherever you're not getting that, then you start losing trust. So you have to use various platforms to keep reiterating that this is what you bought is what you will get, right? And like use testimonials, retargeting ads with testimonials that this customer bought our product. These are all various ways of building trust.
Yeah, I think one of the other speakers in another session was, talking specifically about how testimonial ads actually perform the best, across the board in the D2C industry. And, this just goes and superimposes the point that you just made, Ali. I want to talk about another interesting touch point, which is, the buying journey itself, right? What could potentially a business do differently across the buying journey, more specifically once, the cart is prepared and ready to be purchased? Are there, one or two key levers? And Prashant, if you could take the lead on this one.
Yeah, so one key lever that we see is the estimated delivery date. We see the conversions changing based on what estimated delivery date you are showing. Consumers now are not accustomed to, say, a 10 days delivery date for a shipment. And there also, we have seen brands who are like just in time preparing the product and then shipping it. It's important that you communicate that clearly. That this is going to be a just in time.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. Not just mentioning what the estimated time to delivery is, but if it is high, then why is it high, right? And sometimes that's also a very good opportunity for the brand to communicate their story and their, connect at a much deeper level with their end customer. Anything else apart from this, Ali, that you would want to add? Like, the buying journey is one of the very high anxiety points, and converting them into prepaid is probably one of the things that you could do. What are some of the things that you have observed brands doing?
So there's a smaller segment of people who are habitual returners, right? So brands obviously build a database of, they use a CRM, where they track how many returns, what the return percentage, and what they typically start doing is that for such logged in users, they start hiding. They integrate the CRM back with their web store, and they start hiding the COD option. That's a very common thing that I think you guys at Razorpay also enable that, right? So that's the other thing of the segment which is not about trust. This is the segment where a habit has formed. It's a smaller segment than the trust. Trust is the biggest segment. The second is a habitual returners who just do it, for the kick of it. A lot of times, kids order COD, and then when it delivers, they just take a risk on whether their parents will pay for it or not, right? So these are all habits that we're observing. So the hiding of COD works out to be a good factor where you build the systems and build that feedback loop to sort of hide it.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, a couple of aspects is, on the COD to prepaid bit, right? You have a lot of opportunities to convert that customer's intent from a cash on delivery order to prepaid. And you could probably just engage with them a few times to, convert them. In fact, I know brands who very specifically have, teams just doing that, and that helps them significantly reduce RTO. Because it's not a scalable strategy. It costs a lot to staff a team of that sort, right? Another interesting aspect, and multiple brands have mentioned this, and we personally, like Ali mentioned, at Razorpay in our checkout systems do this, is we identify the, some of the key PIN codes or phone numbers that are, very evidently willful defaulters, and enable brands to sort of, go and disable them. That puts a lot of power in the hands of brands to, be able to not cater to these customers. And of course, brands by themselves will not have that prowess, but shipping partners, delivery partners such as yourselves will have that abundance of data that you can put in the hands of brands and enable them further. I think one last aspect that I'd like to go about in a little more detail, and that's literally at the doorstep, right? I mean, there's a delivery person standing at the doorstep and a customer refusing, and we spoke about a bunch of reasons around that. How can a brand navigate some of those?
Yeah. Right. So I'll take this up. So this we see NDR management, as people call it, non-delivery reports management, as one of the key aspects of optimizing on their RTO percentages. Like there are standard reasons like the customer is rejecting the shipment, which contributes to a major chunk of these reasons. But we see reasons like customer is unreachable, the address is incorrect, the customer wants open delivery. So these few of the reasons that brands can actually work and solve. Like if you have a really good checkout flow where you are capturing the complete address and passing it to the carrier, ultimately your address issues should go to a minimal. Now carriers even support capturing latitude and longitude and then using that to deliver the shipment. Why not advance in that direction? Customer unreachable cases, take alternate number from the customer as well, right? And then communicate in parallel. You can build your communication suite to.
Yeah, that's a good option, right? To be able to giving a heads up. For example, you just tell your customer, hey, there's a cash on delivery order worth XYZ amount, and please keep this amount handy. That could just reduce the friction at the time of delivery. Ali, sorry, please go ahead, Prashant. Yeah, my bad.
Right, and you can just adding one more point. So it's now that the carriers have advanced a lot, right? In terms of their, in terms of how the tracking data is also provided. So platform like ours can even power communications before the shipment is marked as out for delivery. When it is just reached the destination warehouse, you can let the customer know that the shipment will be attempted in the next 24 hours.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Keep this amount ready. You can be prepared tomorrow.
What else could we do
about that?
No, these are all valid points. We do it. I think ClickPost also does this. We do the NDR WhatsApp messaging, which is basically the moment our executive says that this person wasn't available, we firstly try to eliminate. There's an industry problem called fake remark. Where a small segment of customers, where executives maybe towards the end don't want to put that extra effort into. When a guy says, I'm here, they don't attempt it and they go for the next day. And in COD, that typically leads to an RTO. So we send verification messages that our guy says you weren't at home. Were you there? And if that person says, no, I was there, we make sure that the executive is sort of penalized, it's called out to his manager, and the next day it's definitely attempted. So we do that for over 3 attempts, right? And address is a very valid one because we have address disambiguation API that some brands use, right? So what that does is that if the consumer enters an address, we start giving prompts that this is not enough. You need to put more qualifiers or add a landmark. India, at least for tier 1, tier 2, that works very well. And you know how it is in towns. If you target too much of tier 3, 4, you will get addresses like, Sharmaji's house next to the, next to the court or something like that. These kind of addresses. So these are very, just the name and the village and the pin code also are very addresses, and India Post manages to deliver to these kind of guys. We've now figured out a way to build a system where we're able to deliver to this. So there, I think those APIs will probably not be able to help. It's a complex journey. It depends, but yes, address clarity is a very big reason why sometimes it fails. And that is something that the more brands adopt technology, some of our larger brands use this. APIs, and
Yeah.
they've managed to reduce it. The NDR messaging, WhatsApp messaging, has reduced RTO. And manning an NDR dashboard where someone just calls them if it's high value ASP shipment, especially above 2,000 rupees. So let's say you have a 40% margin, so it's $800. So it's worth for you to hire a person to just sit and call them sometimes and say,
Yeah.
आपने क्यों मना किया? 500 रुपए का मैं आपको वाउचर भेज रहा हूँ. Please accept the shipment. कल फिर से attempt हो जाएगा. And that also has worked. It's not very scalable, but at least in the early stages, while they're establishing their trust, brands do use this.
Certainly, I think these are some great points. A couple of others that I heard from brands, and some really creative brands out there. One brand owner told me that when they started facing a lot of RTO, they actually went ahead and spoke to a few customers who had RTO'd, and they're like, the package looked fishy. It didn't look like a very professional job. So this brand then got the best material cardboard, the best branded tape and stamps, and the whole 9 yards, just to make sure that the packaging looks like next level professional. And voila, it actually solved the problem for them, right? So in certain cases, this could just be the signifier of how good you are as a brand. So similar to what one of you spoke about, how it looks on the website. Like your website really needs to look professional. Your delivery also at the doorstep needs to look equally professional and legitimate for the customer to be able to trust and actually invest in it. Sometimes it might just entice you, right? If nothing else. Okay. I'd like to cover one last aspect, and going to spend like a quick one minute each from the two of you. Where we're going to talk about understanding how fulfillment strategy itself plays a role in RTO, right? Because you both spoke about high delivery timelines, and a large factor of that is if you're going to build your product custom, then that's a different strategy or problem altogether. But unless you are customizing every order, you should have a fulfillment strategy that can help you get to your customers faster. So what would you folks suggest? And a quick 30 seconds each, sorry, from each one of you. That's the amount of time the events team tells me is left.
Okay, I'll take this up. First thing that we see is distributing your warehousing. As soon as you start seeing volumes across India, like you need to distribute your warehousing to be closer to the customer, to reduce the time for the customer to get the product. Few additional things that we see is allocating shipments to carriers specific to the areas where they are performing really well. It's sometimes, as Ali was speaking about, a very, I would say, fake remarks problem as well. So one carrier might have good fleet there, doing excellent job, and you see those numbers up and down. So allocating the shipments to the right carriers. Few other strategies that we've seen brands taking are around blocking high RTO catalogs and blocking certain customers.
That's interesting, right? So you say you put your product in more distributed warehouses so that the delivery time is shorter. That's definitely one a very good way of getting to your customers faster. Ali, what more would you suggest to that?
I'd like to add a nuance to that point. It's very tricky and something that a brand should calculate a lot before getting into. We have seen brands really burn money or even shut down on bad fulfillment strategy because this is capex. You invest on rents on multiple warehouses. You need to be in a category which has very high demand distributed across the geography in key cities. You need to have depth of inventory, not width of SKUs. So you can't be someone who has shoes where every shoe size is one unique SKU and you have 2 pieces of it or 5 pieces of it and split that inventory across the country. That doesn't work. As opposed to, let's say you're selling chips, it's standardized and you know that demand is consistent, and you might as well go with a Q-commerce who gives you dark stores.
Yeah.
So some categories like electronics, earphones or headphones categories, which has been growing up, you have depth of inventory. You have maybe 100 SKUs, but you will be able to import at least 5,000 units or 10,000 units or manufacture that, then splitting that is still something that you can get an ROI on. But if you don't do it and you unnecessarily split your inventory, so I'm just saying that you have to be very careful of what category you're in. This is a mistake that brands do a lot of unnecessarily doing this. They should do it when they have the right market, the right size, and the right type of SKUs.
Got it. That brings me to the end of the questions that I had. I am looking at the list of questions that our audience has shared, and I think 95% of those questions already got covered in the session. So I'm very happy about that. I'll pick one that hasn't been answered so far. It's a very interesting one. I myself wonder with this question: does adding a COD fee really reduce RTO? You could go in any sequence. That's okay.
It's not a data point that I have insight on, honestly. I'm curious if Prashant has that insight. It's not something that I have insight.
Yeah, so we haven't seen enough impact there on adding COD amount, an extra shipping charge on COD shipment that changes customer behavior. We haven't seen much activity around that. We have started seeing some customers now trying to convert again cash on delivery orders to prepaid orders during the transit journey, and then incentivizing the customers there that they can get some discount. And there, interestingly, we see
pretty much in line with what I've
declining.
observed as well.
So,
adding a COD fee helps to a very small extent to customers who don't have a trust issue, but it's just a convenience factor for them. I'll just pay cash, right? There they might be incentivized to turn into a prepaid order. For all other reasons that we spoke about, customers are actually willing to pay an extra fee if it safeguards their whole, right? So that extra fee is going to be like a 10-20% in most cases. They're willing to undergo that cost if they're going to get a much more trustworthy experience overall. So I think that brings us to the end of the session. Prashant and Ali, I think
I'd just like to address, I think there was a question copy pasted 3 times. So I just wanted to address that around the delivery person contact number.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that a lot of brands have told us, and at least for delivery, we're bringing it up.
Mm-hmm.
We anyway have a consumer tracking app, and on that, on the tracking page, you'll be able to call the executive when it comes up. This is something that should probably take another couple of months, which will go live post the peak season, but that's something that we're building.
Got it. Yeah, that sounds like a great way for customers to be able to have more granular control over or visibility over where their order is. Awesome. Prashant and Ali, firstly, thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights and for taking the time on a Friday afternoon and engaging with our audiences here. I'm getting like tremendous responses from people about how they found the session. So thank you so much for taking out the time, and we'll of course look forward to more such insights from you in future as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for listening in.
Thank you so much, folks. That was definitely a really strong one. Lots to learn.
See you, folks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Everyone joining us in the chat, guys, don't let the afternoon lull get you down at all. Get yourself a cup of coffee, maybe a snack if you want to now, because you're going to not want to miss the minute of the next one. Ferns and Petals is something I have personally trusted for long distance deliveries. When you forget birthdays, anniversaries, you turn to Ferns and Petals. At this point, Ferns and Petals is saving marriages. I'm sure that's contributing to half the sales. Unfortunately, we don't have the numbers on that. But we do have reports telling us that F&P sees strong numbers in international markets. So our next session dives really deep into that. They're now in 70 plus countries. How are they doing it? What's the magic sauce? We're going to find out soon. So we have 5 minutes before we head on to the next session. Get yourself a cup of coffee and I'll see you there.